Hello there and welcome. Tonight, we are going to lower our gaze. We are going to look away from the stars and the horizon and focus on the ground beneath our feet. We are entering the silent, infinite empire of the ants. You might walk past them every day without a second thought. But tonight, we will discover that these tiny creatures are the true owners of this planet. We will learn that if you were to put every human being on one side of a giant scale and every ant on the other, the scale would be perfectly balanced. We are outweighed by them. We will explore underground cities that have their own ventilation systems, climate control, and waste management, designed millions of years before humans stacked their first stone. We will meet ants that farm fungus in vast subterranean gardens, ants that herd other insects like cattle, and ants that use their own bodies to build living bridges across the water. We will uncover a chemical language so complex that it rivals our own internet, a silent network of signals flowing constantly through the soil. But this is not a story of chaos. It is a story of perfect order. It is a rhythm of work and rest that has continued unbroken for 140 million years. So, let go of your human size. Let go of your heavy concerns. Imagine you are shrinking down, becoming small enough to walk through a forest of grass blades. The air is still. The smell of the earth is rich and warm. Take a slow, deep breath in, inhaling the scent of the soil and the rain, and as you exhale, feel your body settling into the ground, supported by the earth itself. You are safe. You are hidden. And our journey into the microcosmos is ready to begin. To understand the ant, we must first confront the sheer scale of their existence. We humans often believe that we are the dominant species on Earth because we build tall buildings and alter the landscape. But in terms of pure biology, this is the planet of the ants. Recent scientific estimates suggest that there are approximately 20 quadrillion ants living on Earth right now. That is a 20 followed by 15 zeros. It is a number so large it becomes abstract. To put it in perspective, for every single human being alive today, there are 2.5 million ants. But the most staggering fact is their combined weight. Despite an individual ant weighing only a few milligrams, their collective biomass is colossal. If you could gather all the ants in the world into one pile and all the humans into another, the piles would be roughly the same size. In some ecosystems, like the tropical rainforests, the ants actually outweigh all the vertebrates, all the birds, mammals, and reptiles combined. They are the invisible heavyweights of the world, a living layer of biological matter that covers the globe, moving ton after ton of soil without making a single sound that human ears can hear. We respect things that are old. We look at the pyramids or the ancient redwoods with awe. But the ant civilization makes these look like recent events. Ants evolved from wasp-like ancestors in the mid-Cretaceous period, about 140 million years ago. This means they were already building complex societies while the Tyrannosaurus rex was still walking the earth. They marched beneath the feet of the dinosaurs. They survived the asteroid impact that wiped out the giants. They survived the ice ages that covered the world in white. While 99% of all species that have ever lived have gone extinct, the ant has endured, virtually unchanged. When you see an ant scurry across your path, you are looking at a design that has been tested and perfected over eons, a biological machine that conquered the world simply by being small, cooperative, and persistent. When we look at an ant, we see an insect. We see a tiny individual running around. But this is a visual illusion. In the world of myrmecology, the study of ants, there is a concept known as the superorganism. In this view, a single ant is not an animal. It is merely a cell. It cannot survive alone. It has no individual purpose. The animal is the colony itself. The queen is the reproductive organ, the ovaries of the beast. The workers are the hands, the legs, and the immune system. The soldiers are the teeth and claws. The tunnels are the veins. The colony thinks, decides, breathes, and acts as one massive distributed being. It spills across the forest floor like a liquid, thousands of parts moving with a singular will. To understand them, we must stop looking at the dot and start looking at the pattern. To survive in a world of giants, you need armor. Humans keep their skeletons on the inside, wrapped in soft, vulnerable skin. But the ant has turned this design inside out. They possess an exoskeleton. Their bones are on the outside. Their body is encased in a hard, shell-like material called chitin. This is a derivative of glucose, a tough, flexible polymer that acts like a suit of biological plate mail. It shields them from impacts, prevents them from drying out in the sun, and serves as a rigid anchor for their muscles. Because their muscles are attached to the inside of this shell, they have leverage that mammalian muscles do not. This mechanical advantage is the secret to their legendary strength, allowing them to lift objects 50 times their own weight, the equivalent of a human lifting a truck with their teeth. We breathe by expanding our chests, using a diaphragm to suck air into massive spongy lungs. It is a noisy, active mechanical process, but an ant has no lungs. It does not pant, it does not hold its breath. Instead, along the sides of its thorax and abdomen, there are rows of tiny microscopic portholes called spiracles. These are the intakes. Air simply flows into these holes, traveling down a network of branching tubes called tracheae that deliver oxygen directly to every cell in the body. It is a passive respiratory system. The oxygen diffuses silently into the tissues. This system is efficient, but it has a limit. Physics dictates that oxygen can only diffuse so far, which is the reason ants have remained small. If they grew to the size of a dog, this passive system would fail and they would suffocate. Their size is the price they pay for their silence. If you were to cut an ant, which we will not do, you would not see red blood. Red blood is red because of hemoglobin, the iron-rich molecule we use to transport oxygen. But because ants deliver oxygen directly through their tubes, their blood does not need to carry it. Their blood is called hemolymph. It is a clear or slightly greenish-yellow fluid. It is not just life support, it is hydraulic fluid. It carries nutrients, hormones, and immune cells, but it also pressurizes their bodies. When an ant extends its legs, it is partly using muscle and partly using the pressure of this fluid. They are soft machines running on green fuel, circulating a cold liquid that never tires because it does not have the burden of keeping a massive mammal warm. An ant's life depends on its senses, particularly its antennae. If these sensors get dirty, the ant is blind and deaf. To prevent this, evolution has given them a built-in grooming kit. On the front legs of almost every ant, located at the joint, is a specialized structure called the tibial spur. It looks like a tiny curved spine. Next to it is a notch covered in fine hairs. Together they form a perfect circular comb. When an ant needs to clean its antenna, it lifts its leg, hooks the antenna into this notch, and pulls it through. The comb scrapes off dust, pollen, and chemical residue. It is a gesture you will see constantly in the colony, a pause, a swipe, and a cleaning, ensuring the instruments of perception remain perfectly calibrated. We are bound to the floor by gravity, but an ant treats gravity as a suggestion. They can walk up vertical glass and across ceilings with ease. This ability comes from a complex engineering system at the tip of their feet. At the end of each leg are two hooked claws, perfect for gripping rough surfaces like bark or stone. But between these claws is a soft, moist pad called the aerolium. When an ant steps on a smooth surface like a leaf or glass, it deploys this pad. The aerolium secretes a thin film of fluid that creates surface tension, a wet adhesion, sticking the ant to the surface. When it lifts its foot, hydraulic pressure retracts the pad, breaking the seal instantly. They are walking on liquid suction cups, switching effortlessly between hooks and glue with every step. If you were an ant, you would not live in a world of sights and sounds. You would live in a world of smells. We have eyes. Ants have chemoreceptors. An ant does not just walk through the air. She walks through a thick, invisible fog of information. Every ant is surrounded by a personal cloud of hydrocarbons, a chemical aura. This aura tells other ants everything. I am a friend, I am hungry, I am the queen, or I am an intruder. They communicate by laying down pheromones, complex chemical cocktails that evaporate at specific rates. An alarm pheromone evaporates fast, spreading panic quickly, but vanishing soon after the danger passes. A trail pheromone is heavier, lasting longer on the ground to guide the sisters to food. They are painting the world with scent, creating a vibrant, invisible map overlaid on the physical terrain. When two ants meet on a trail, they almost always stop and touch heads. This is not a kiss, it is a data transfer. This behavior is called antenation. The antennae are not just feelers, they are sophisticated biological wands packed with thousands of sensory hairs. When they tap each other rapidly, they are tasting the chemical molecules on each other's skin. In a fraction of a second, they exchange a massive packet of data, colony identity, hierarchy status, and nutritional needs. It is a high-speed, tactile internet connection. If you watch closely, you will see the rhythm. Tap, tap, pause, tap. It is a binary code of touch, a silent conversation happening at a speed our brains couldn't process. Most people know about the two large compound eyes on the side of an ant's head, but many species possess a secret set of eyes that often go unnoticed. Look closely at the forehead of a queen or a male ant, and you will see 3 tiny, shiny dots arranged in a triangle. These are the ocelli, or simple eyes. They do not see images, they cannot focus. Their job is purely navigational. They are sensitive to light intensity and, crucially, the polarization of sunlight. Even on a cloudy day, the ocelli can detect the exact position of the sun behind the clouds. They act as a celestial compass, a built-in GPS sensor that locks onto the light of the sky, ensuring that no matter how far the ant wanders, she always knows exactly which way is north. We hear sound waves traveling through the air. Ants are deaf to these waves. If you shouted at an ant, she wouldn't hear you. But if you tapped your finger on the table she was standing on, she would freeze instantly. Ants hear through their feet. They possess subgenual organs in their legs that are incredibly sensitive to substrate-borne vibrations. They perceive sound as a physical shaking of the world. A human footstep nearby feels like an earthquake to them. When a soldier ant bangs her head against the tunnel wall to signal danger, the signal travels through the soil, picked up by the legs of her sisters hundreds of feet away. It is a seismic communication network, turning the earth itself into a telephone line. Inside the colony, the temperature is critical. The larvae, the babies, need to be kept at a precise warmth to grow. But the hive has no heater. Instead, it has nurse ants who act as living thermometers. These ants are exquisitely sensitive to thermal gradients. They can detect temperature differences of a fraction of a degree. They constantly pick up the brood, the eggs and larvae, and move them around the nest. In the morning, they might move them to the upper chambers to catch the sun's warmth. At noon, if it gets too hot, they carry them deep into the cool basement. They are constantly shuffling the future generation, chasing the perfect temperature zone as it shifts throughout the day, ensuring the babies are always incubated in the Goldilocks zone of the hive. Every ant colony begins with a single chaotic event in the sky. On a specific humid day in summer, usually after a heavy rain, a silent signal is given across miles of landscape. Simultaneously, thousands of young queens and winged males from different colonies emerge from the ground. This is the nuptial flight. For a few hours, the air is thick with flying ants. It is a genetic storm. The queens are flying high, seeking the strongest males. It is the only time in their lives they will see the world from above. The only time they will feel the wind under wings that were grown solely for this singular afternoon. They mate in mid-air, a frantic dance of life that ensures the genetic diversity of the future. When the sun sets, the flight ends. The sky clears. The queens drop back to the earth, never to fly again. And what of the males? In the ant world, the male is a biological arrow designed for one target. He has no stinger, no tools for digging, and no instinct for work. His only purpose is the flight. Once he has mated, his purpose is fulfilled. His biological clock runs out instantly. He does not return to the hive. His sisters would not let him in. He falls to the ground and dies. It is a life of extreme brevity, existing only to pass the torch of life to the next generation. The ground after a nuptial flight is often littered with these fallen kings, their energy spent, their bodies returning to the soil to feed the very grass that hides their children. The young queen is now alone. She lands on the soil. Her first act is a violent one. She reaches back with her legs or rubs against a stone to snap off her own wings. She no longer needs them. They are a liability underground. Now a walker, she searches for soft earth. She begins to dig. She excavates a small, narrow tunnel, perhaps only a few inches deep, ending in a tiny room. This is the claustral cell or founding chamber. Once inside, she seals the entrance from the inside. She is buried alive. She is in total darkness, completely cut off from the outside world. This chamber is her tomb, but it will become her nursery. She will sit in this silence, alone for weeks or even months, waiting for her eggs to develop. During this confinement, the queen does not eat. She cannot leave to forage. So, how does she feed her first batch of babies? She feeds them with her own body. She undergoes a process of metabolic sacrifice. The massive muscles in her thorax which powered her wings during the nuptial flight are no longer needed. Her body begins to dissolve them. She converts her own muscle tissue into a nutritious liquid protein. She regurgitates this fluid to feed the first tiny, hungry larvae. She is literally melting her ability to fly to give her children the ability to walk. By the time the first workers, called nanitics hatch, the queen is a husk of her former self, exhausted and starving, having given everything she had to jumpstart the colony. The queen has one more biological secret. She mated only on that single afternoon during the nuptial flight. Yet she can live for up to 30 years, laying thousands of eggs every day. How does she fertilize them for decades without ever mating again? She possesses a specialized internal organ called the spermatheca. It is a microscopic, spherical tank. After the flight, the sperm she received is stored here. But it is not just stored, it is kept in a state of suspended animation. The queen releases oxygen and nutrients to these cells sparingly, keeping them alive and viable for 30 years. She controls the valve. As an egg passes down her oviduct, she decides whether to release a single sperm to fertilize it, creating a female worker, or to let it pass unfertilized. She is the ultimate genetic banker, managing a finite resource with perfect precision for a lifetime. In human society, you choose a career and often stick with it. In ant society, your job is determined by your age. This system is called temporal polyethism. When a worker ant first emerges from her pupa, she is pale and soft. She is called a callow. She is too fragile for the outside world. Her first job is in the deep, safe center of the nest, tending to the queen and the eggs. As she ages and her exoskeleton hardens and darkens, she moves outward. She becomes a builder, expanding the tunnels. Then she becomes a guard at the entrance. Finally, in the last phase of her life, she becomes a forager. She leaves the nest to face the wind, the rain, and the predators. It is a system designed to protect the young. The most dangerous jobs are reserved for the oldest citizens who have the least time left to lose. If you watch two ants meet, you will often see them engage in a behavior that looks like a kiss. They lock mandibles and pass a droplet of liquid from mouth to mouth. This is not romance, it is refueling. Ants possess two stomachs. One is for their own digestion. The other, located just before it, is the social stomach or crop. When an ant drinks nectar, she stores most of it in this communal tank. A specialized valve prevents it from being digested. She carries this liquid weight back to the hive to share with the nurses and the queen who never leave the dark. This process of sharing regurgitated food is called trophallaxis. It binds the colony together chemically. Through this shared liquid, every ant knows what the colony has eaten, and the energy of the flower is distributed evenly to thousands of sisters who never saw the sun. Living in a crowded underground city presents a major problem: waste. If garbage accumulates, disease follows. Therefore, ants are obsessive sanitation workers. They build specific chambers far away from the nursery and the queen, designated solely as middens, or trash rooms. Workers carry the empty husks of seeds, the inedible parts of insects, and any other refuse to these dumps. They constantly turn the compost to promote decay and prevent mold. Some species even have toilet chambers, specific corners used only for waste excretion. They understand the germ theory of disease instinctively. By creating a strict separation between the clean zones of life and the dirty zones of waste, they prevent plagues that could wipe out the superorganism in days. Death is a constant in a city of 50,000. Ants die of old age or exhaustion every hour. If a body is left in a tunnel, it becomes a hazard. So, the colony employs undertakers. But how do they know an ant is dead? An ant does not check for a pulse. They rely on chemistry. When an ant dies, its cell membranes break down and release a specific chemical called oleic acid. This is the smell of death. It triggers an automatic response in any living sister who smells it. Pick up the object and carry it out. The instinct is so strong that if researchers paint a drop of oleic acid onto a perfectly healthy, living ant, her sisters will pick her up, kicking and struggling, and dump her in the graveyard. To an ant, you are not dead when your heart stops. You are dead when you smell dead. There is no retirement home for an ant. There is no rest for the weary. As an ant approaches the end of her life, her mandibles are worn down from digging and her exoskeleton is scratched. She is a depreciated asset. Rather than being cared for, these old ants take on the suicide missions. They are the ones sent to explore new, unknown territories. They are the ones who attack large predators to defend the nest. From the cold, mathematical perspective of the colony, losing an old worker is a minor cost compared to losing a young one with months of potential work ahead of her. They serve until the very last second, their value calculated purely by what they can give to the whole. Deep underground, millions of ants are breathing. The fungi they farm are breathing. The decomposing waste is releasing heat. In a poorly designed city, the colony would suffocate from carbon dioxide or cook in its own metabolic heat. But the ant is a master of HVAC engineering. Species like the leafcutter ant build massive mounds above their nests with specialized turret-like openings. These aren't just doors, they are chimneys. The ants construct the tunnels to exploit the Bernoulli principle. Wind blowing across the top of the turrets creates low pressure, which sucks the stale, hot carbon dioxide-rich air out of the nest. Meanwhile, vents near the bottom suck cool, fresh air in. The entire mound acts like a giant, passive lung, inhaling and exhaling constantly without a single fan or motor, powered entirely by the geometry of the wind. For the army ants of South America, there is no permanent city. They are nomads, constantly marching through the jungle floor. When they encounter a gap, a stream, a fissure between rocks, they do not look for a stick, they become the stick. Without a leader shouting orders, the ants at the front realize the gap. They hook their legs together, grabbing each other's claws. More ants climb over them and extend the chain. They form a suspension bridge made entirely of living bodies. This bridge is remarkably strong. Thousands of soldiers and heavy cargo carriers march over the backs of their sisters. The ants in the bridge structure must endure immense tension and pain, holding the line for hours until the entire colony has crossed before unhooking and running to rejoin the rear of the column. Because army ants are nomads, they cannot dig a nest every night. Instead, they build a bivouac. As the sun sets, they find a sheltered spot, perhaps under a fallen log. Then 500,000 ants link their legs together. They form a solid, living ball of insects about the size of a basketball or a laundry hamper. Inside this ball, it is a complex structure. There are hallways, chambers, and a central throne room for the queen and her brood. The walls are made of ants. If the night is cold, the ball shrinks, tightening the weave to trap heat. If it is hot, the ball expands, opening air ducts in the living walls to cool down. It is a city made of flesh, assembled every dusk and disassembled every dawn. The fire ants of the Amazon floodplains face a different threat: water. When the river rises and floods their nest, they do not drown. They pour out of the ground and onto the surface of the water. They grab onto each other's limbs with a grip strength that is unbreakable. Their waxy exoskeletons are hydrophobic. They repel water. By linking together, they trap millions of tiny air bubbles between their bodies. This creates a living raft that is unsinkable. You can push this raft underwater with a stick, and it will pop right back up like a rubber duck. The ants constantly rotate positions. The ones on the bottom move to the top so they don't get waterlogged. They can float like this for weeks, a dry island of life drifting on the flood until they hit dry land. Defense is a key part of architecture. Most colonies have narrow entrances to keep enemies out, but the cephalotes ant, also known as the turtle ant, has evolved a biological door. The soldier caste of this species has a head that is perfectly flat and circular, looking exactly like a manhole cover. It is shaped to fit the entrance of the nest tunnel precisely. When a soldier is on duty, she sits inside the tunnel, blocking the hole with her flat head. To an intruder outside, there is no hole. There is just a hard, armored disc blocking the way. When a worker returns with food, she taps a secret code on the soldier's head. The door unlocks. The soldier backs up, lets the sister in, and then slams the plug back into place. Deep in the rainforests of Central and South America, you will see highways of green. Millions of leafcutter ants march in lines, each carrying a cut piece of leaf like a green sail above her head. But here is the secret: they do not eat the leaves. They cannot digest cellulose. They are farmers. They carry these leaves deep underground into climate-controlled chambers. There, smaller ants chew the leaves into a pulp. They use this pulp as fertilizer to grow a specific type of white, fluffy fungus. This fungus exists nowhere else in nature. It grows only in the nests of these ants. The ants weed the garden, pruning the fungus to keep it growing, and in return, the fungus produces protein-rich structures called gongylidea that the ants eat. It is a perfect symbiosis. They are not foragers, they are agrarian masters running an industrial-scale farm in the dark. Farming underground is dangerous. Mold and weed fungi are constant threats that could wipe out the crop. For decades, scientists wondered how the ants kept their gardens so pure without using pesticides. The answer was found on the ants' own bodies. If you look at a leafcutter ant under a microscope, you might see a whitish, dusty coating on her chest plates. This is not dirt. It is a living colony of bacteria called streptomyces. The ant actively cultivates this bacteria on her own skin. In return, the bacteria produces a powerful antibiotic. When a parasitic mold attacks the fungus garden, the ant rubs her chest against the infection, applying the antibiotic like a doctor applying ointment. They invented modern medicine millions of years before Fleming discovered penicillin. Ants do not just farm crops, they ranch livestock. On the stems of roses and vegetable plants, you will often see clusters of tiny, soft-bodied insects called aphids. They suck the sap from the plant and excrete a sugary, sticky liquid called honeydew. To an ant, this is liquid gold. Species like the black garden ant have learned to herd these aphids. They stroke the aphid's abdomen with their antennae, a tactile massage that stimulates the aphid to release a drop of honeydew, which the ant drinks. In exchange for this food, the ants become bodyguards. They attack ladybugs and predators that try to eat their cows. They even carry the aphids to new, fresher leaves when the old ones dry up, and take them inside the nest during winter to protect them from the cold. It is animal husbandry on a micro scale. In the Amazon rainforest, biodiversity is usually high. Hundreds of tree species grow together. But occasionally you find a strange patch of forest where only one single species of tree, the Doroia hirsuta, grows. The locals call these devil's gardens, believing an evil spirit kills all other plants. Science found the true culprit, the lemon ant, Myrmellachista schumani. These tiny ants live inside the hollow stems of the Doroia tree. They patrol the forest floor. If they find a seedling of any other plant species trying to grow near their home, they inject it with formic acid. The weed dies within days. By systematically killing the competition, the ants allow their host tree to spread unchecked, creating vast, unnatural monocultures in the middle of the jungle. They are aggressive landscapers, shaping the ecosystem to build a kingdom for themselves. When we think of weapons, we think of sharp objects, but ants are masters of chemistry. Many species, particularly the wood ants, possess a specialized gland at the tip of their abdomen that produces a potent weapon, formic acid. This acid is corrosive and has a pungent, vinegar-like smell. When the colony is threatened, thousands of soldiers rise up on their back legs, point their abdomens forward, and fire simultaneously. They create a literal cloud of acid mist in the air. Against a large predator like a bear or a badger, this mist burns the eyes and nose, forcing the giant to retreat. It is artillery fire without gunpowder, a collective chemical barrage that turns the air around the nest into an unbreathable shield. In the rainforests of Malaysia, there is an ant, Colobopsis saundersi, that takes defense to the ultimate extreme. It is known as the exploding ant. These workers possess massive, enlarged glands running down the entire length of their bodies, filled with a toxic, sticky yellow glue. When a predator grabs one of these ants, she does not bite. Instead, she violently contracts her abdominal muscles. The pressure becomes so great that her exoskeleton splits open. She explodes. The sticky glue bursts out, entangling the predator and burning it with corrosive chemicals. The ant dies instantly, sacrificing herself to turn her own body into a biological landmine that immobilizes the enemy to save the colony. Perhaps the most chilling strategy belongs to the Amazon ants, Polyergus. These ants have specialized, saber-like mandibles that are perfect for fighting but useless for digging or feeding. They cannot even feed themselves. To survive, they must steal workers. On cool afternoons, a raiding party leaves the nest. They march to the colony of a different species, usually the docile wood ant. They use propaganda pheromones to confuse the defenders, creating panic. Then they rush in. They do not kill the adults if they can avoid it. They steal the pupae, the cocoons waiting to hatch. They carry these cocoons back home. When the young wood ants hatch, they imprint on the Amazon queen's scent. They believe they are home. They spend their lives foraging, building, and feeding the very masters who kidnapped them, a labor force built entirely on a chemical lie. Speed is a weapon. The trapjaw ant, Odontomachus, possesses the fastest biological movement ever recorded in the animal kingdom. Its mandibles are spring-loaded. It can lock them open at a 180-degree angle, storing immense elastic energy in the muscles of its head. When sensitive trigger hairs are touched, the latch releases. The jaws snap shut at speeds of up to 145 miles per hour. The acceleration is so intense that it generates forces hundreds of times the ant's body weight. If the ant snaps its jaws against the ground instead of prey, the force launches the ant into the air. It can backflip to safety, using its mouth as an emergency ejector seat to escape danger in the blink of an eye. In the scorching, featureless salt pans of the Tunisian desert, the desert ant, Cataglyphis, leaves her nest to forage. She wanders in zigzags for hundreds of meters, turning randomly to find a dead insect. But when she finds food, something incredible happens. She does not retrace her steps. She turns and runs in a perfectly straight line back to the tiny hole of her nest. How does she know the geometry? Scientists discovered the answer by lengthening the legs of ants with tiny stilts. It turns out the ant counts her steps. She possesses an internal pedometer. Her brain constantly calculates the distance traveled and the angle of every turn, integrating this data into a vector. She knows exactly how far she has walked. Even in a landscape with no landmarks, she is navigating by pure mathematics, counting her way home 1 millimeter at a time. But counting steps is not enough. She needs direction. The desert sky is often bright and featureless. To us, the blue sky looks uniform, but to an ant, the sky is a map covered in arrows. Ants can see polarized light. As sunlight passes through the atmosphere, it scatters, creating concentric patterns of polarization that remain fixed relative to the sun. Even on a cloudy day, or when the sun is hidden, the ant can see these patterns. She uses them as a celestial compass. Before she takes a single step, she looks up, reads the polarization of the sky to orient herself to north, and locks her internal gyroscope. She is navigating by the hidden physics of light itself. We often think of teaching as a human trait, but the tiny rock ant practices true mentorship. When a scout finds a new food source, she does not just leave a trail. She leads a novice. This is called tandem running. The teacher leads and the student follows, keeping her antennae in contact with the teacher's abdomen. If the student falls behind to look at a landmark, the teacher stops and waits. She only moves when the student taps her to signal she is ready. The leader slows her pace significantly to allow the follower to learn the route. It is the first known example of bidirectional teaching in non-human animals, a patient transfer of knowledge from one generation to the next. Navigation systems are powerful, but they can fail. For the blind army ants, who rely entirely on the pheromone trail of the ant in front of them, a mistake can be fatal. Sometimes the lead ants lose the main trail and accidentally lock onto their own scent. They begin to walk in a circle. The ants behind them follow. Soon, thousands of ants are caught in a tightening loop, marching endlessly around a central point. This is the ant mill, or the spiral of death. They will march until they die of exhaustion, trapped by their own loyalty to the system. It is a tragic, hypnotic phenomenon, a reminder that the collective intelligence of the superorganism has a dark side. When the logic breaks, the machine cannot stop itself. In the Sahara Desert, at high noon, the temperature of the sand can reach 122 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a killing zone. Every other creature, lizards, scorpions, spiders, has buried itself deep underground to survive. But in this furnace, one creature emerges, the Saharan silver ant. They are the thermophilic extremists of the animal kingdom. They come out when the heat is highest to scavenge the corpses of other insects that died from heat stroke. To survive, they wear a spacesuit. Their bodies are covered in tiny, triangular hairs that act like prisms. These hairs reflect visible and near-infrared light, giving the ant a shimmering metallic silver appearance. They run at blazing speeds to minimize contact with the burning sand, spending only 10 minutes outside before they must return to the cool deep. They are the silver ghosts of the dunes, dancing in a fire that burns everyone else. The name sounds horrifying, but the reality of the Dracula ant, Adetomerma, is a strange form of familial love. Adult ants of this species possess a very narrow waist that prevents them from swallowing solid food. They can hunt prey, but they cannot eat it directly. So they bring the prey to their larvae. The larvae have jaws that can chew the solid meat. They digest it and convert it into a nutrient-rich fluid called hemolymph. Then the adult ant gently pierces the skin of its own baby. It drinks a small amount of the larva's blood. The larva does not die. It heals quickly. This is called non-destructive cannibalism. It creates a circular digestive system where the babies act as the stomachs for the adults, a macabre but efficient transfer of energy within the family. High in the canopy of the Asian and Australian rainforests, the weaver ants build nests not in the ground but in the leaves. They construct massive, football-sized castles by stitching living leaves together. But ants do not produce silk. Their larvae do. To build a wall, a chain of worker ants will pull two leaves together, straining to bridge the gap. Then, another worker arrives carrying a larva in her mandibles. She gently squeezes the baby, stimulating it to release a thread of pure silk. She moves the larva back and forth between the leaf edges like a living glue gun or a sewing shuttle. The larva weaves the leaves together with thousands of tiny threads. It is a communal act of sewing, where the youngest members of the colony provide the mortar that holds the house together. In the arid deserts of Australia and North America, food and water are scarce. The honeypot ants have evolved a solution. They turn themselves into living storage tanks. A specific caste of workers, called repletes, stay deep inside the cool, lower chambers of the nest. They gorge themselves on nectar and water brought by foragers. Their abdomens swell to enormous proportions, becoming the size of grapes or marbles filled with golden liquid. They become too heavy to walk. They simply hang from the ceiling of the tunnel, gripping the rock with their legs, suspended in the dark like living lanterns. During droughts, other ants stroke them, and the repletes regurgitate the stored liquid to feed the colony. They sacrifice their mobility to become the pantry, ensuring the survival of the family through the lean times. Sometimes nature plays a visual trick. In the dry forests of Chile, you might see a creature that looks like a fuzzy white and black ant. It is adorable, resembling a tiny walking panda bear. But this is not an ant. It is a wingless female wasp, and it is not gentle. It possesses a sting so potent that it is colloquially known as the cow killer. Its bright colors are a warning signal called aposematism, do not touch. It mimics the social structure of the ant world to wander freely, but it is a solitary hunter, a wolf in sheep's clothing, or rather a wasp in panda's clothing, prowling the undergrowth. Deep in the tropical rainforests, there exists a killer that targets the mind. It is the Ophiocordyceps fungus. When a microscopic spore of this fungus lands on a foraging ant, it drills through the exoskeleton and enters the body. But it does not kill the ant immediately. It grows inside, consuming non-vital tissues while leaving the brain intact. It waits. Then it releases chemicals that hijack the ant's nervous system. The ant is no longer in control. It leaves the colony. It climbs. The fungus forces the zombie ant to climb a plant to a precise height, usually about 25 centimeters above the forest floor, where the humidity is perfect for the fungus. Once there, the ant bites down hard on a leaf vein. This is the death grip. The muscles lock permanently. The ant dies. Then the final stage begins. A long stalk-like fruiting body bursts out of the ant's head, growing upward to release spores that will rain down on the sisters passing below. It is a cycle of precision cruelty, turning the social loyalty of the ant against itself. The colony is not defenseless against this threat. Because they live in such tight quarters, an infection could wipe out everyone. So, ants have evolved social immunity. They act like white blood cells in a giant body. When a forager returns, guard ants inspect her. If they detect the faint fungal spores of cordyceps on her skin, they begin an aggressive grooming session. They lick the spores off and store them in specialized pockets in their mouths called infrabuccal pockets, where the spores are neutralized by saliva. If an ant is already sick, the colony can sense the chemical change in her scent. They will physically drag the infected sister out of the nest and dump her far away, sacrificing the individual to save the city. It is a ruthless, efficient quarantine protocol enforced by millions of years of survival. Not all parasites are fungi. Some are beautiful. The alcon blue butterfly, Fengaris alcon, has evolved to hack the ant system completely. The butterfly lays its eggs on a plant. When the caterpillar hatches, it falls to the ground. It does not look like an ant, but it smells like one. It produces a chemical mimicry of the ant larva's scent. Even more incredibly, it makes sounds. It sings. It mimics the acoustic sounds made by the queen ant. When a worker ant finds this caterpillar, she does not attack it. She thinks, "This is a royal baby." She picks it up and carries it into the nest. There, the caterpillar is treated like royalty. The ants feed it their best food, sometimes even starving their own babies to feed the imposter. It lives in luxury, a cuckoo in the nest, growing fat on the labor of its duped hosts until it transforms into a butterfly and flies away. If you hold a single ant, it is a solid object. It has legs, a shell, and structure. But if you put 10,000 ants in a jar, they stop behaving like solids. They undergo a phase transition. They begin to behave like a liquid. Physicists call this active matter. Like water molecules, a mass of ants can flow. They can pour through a funnel. They can drip. If you push on a ball of fire ants gently, it deforms like viscous honey. But if you slap it hard, it instantly turns rigid like a brick, absorbing the impact. They are a non-Newtonian fluid, a living material that can switch between solid and liquid states instantly, depending on the stress applied to the colony. It is a collective body that flows around obstacles but hardens to protect itself. Humans hate traffic. When a highway gets crowded, cars slow down, stop, and gridlock occurs. But ants never have traffic jams. Even when thousands of them are moving back and forth on a narrow branch, the flow remains constant. Scientists have discovered that ants use a sophisticated algorithm to manage this. As the path gets crowded, individual ants do not slow down, they adjust their formation. They spontaneously organize into lanes. The inbound ants take the center lane, while the outbound ants take the flanks. If the crowd gets too dense, they signal the ants leaving the nest to wait, throttling the input to prevent a jam. This system is so efficient that computer scientists have studied it to design the routing protocols, specifically the TCP/IP algorithms that manage data traffic on the internet today. The data packet you are reading right now arrived on your screen thanks to logic borrowed from the forest floor. Digging a tunnel in loose sand is a nightmare for engineers. The walls constantly collapse. But ants dig deep, stable tunnels in dry sand every day. They are masters of granular physics. When an ant digs, she does not just remove soil randomly. She feels the stress lines in the sand. She builds microscopic force chains or arches around the tunnel walls. By carefully selecting which grain of sand to remove and which to pack tighter, she redistributes the weight of the soil above. She is essentially building a cathedral of arches, grain by grain, ensuring that the ceiling of the tunnel is always supported by the physics of friction. It is subconscious civil engineering, keeping the city safe from the crushing weight of the earth above. In a city that never sleeps, do the citizens ever rest? For a long time, we thought ants were relentless robots, but continuous video monitoring has revealed that worker ants are the ultimate power nappers. A worker ant does not sleep for 8 hours. Instead, she takes roughly 250 naps a day. Each nap lasts only about a minute. She will stop in her tracks, lower her body, and go still. These micro-sleeps add up to nearly 5 hours of rest every day. Because the naps are staggered, at any given moment, 80% of the workforce is awake while 20% is napping. The colony as a whole never stops moving. It is a distributed sleep cycle, ensuring that the machine is always running, even while the parts are resting. The queen, however, lives by different rules. Because she is the most valuable asset, she is afforded the luxury of deep sleep. While her daughters take 1-minute naps, the queen can sleep for up to 9 hours a day. When a queen sleeps, her posture changes dramatically. She lies fully down. Her antennae, usually twitching with sensory input, droop and fold back against her head. Her mandibles relax. Video evidence shows that she enters a state deep enough to have what looks like rapid eye movement phases. In the absolute safety of the royal chamber, surrounded by guards, the mother of the empire drifts into a profound slumber, perhaps dreaming of the next generation she will bring into the world. The act of waking up is surprisingly relatable. When an ant rouses from a nap, she does not just jump into action. She groggily lifts her head. She extends her front legs forward and her back legs backward, stretching her body out. She opens her mandibles wide and then closes them, a movement that looks exactly like a yawn. She grooms her antennae, recalibrating her sensors. It takes a few moments for her to shake off the lethargy before she rejoins the flow of traffic. It is a tiny, human-like moment of transition, a hesitation between the peace of sleep and the duty of work. In the 5th century BC, the Greek historian Herodotus wrote of a strange land in the Far East, India, where the desert sand was rich with gold dust. He claimed this gold was guarded by a terrifying creature, the gold-digging ant. He described them vividly, bigger than a fox, though not so big as a dog. These furry ants would dig their burrows, throwing up heaps of gold-rich sand. The locals would wait for the hottest part of the day, when the ants retreated underground, to steal the gold and race away on camels before the insects could catch them. For centuries, this was accepted as fact. But modern historians have solved the riddle. It was a linguistic error. The ancient Persian word for marmot, a large burrowing ground squirrel, is very similar to the word for ant. Herodotus had heard the story of gold-digging marmots and, lost in translation, created a monster. Yet, the image persists. The ant as the guardian of the earth's treasure, a fierce protector of the soil. In Greek mythology, the greatest warriors were the Myrmidons. They were the soldiers led by Achilles in the Trojan War. But they were not born of women. They were born of the earth. Legend says that the island of Aegina was depopulated by a plague. The king, Aeacus, prayed to Zeus for people. Zeus looked down and saw a colony of ants marching on an oak tree. He transformed them into men. These ant-men retained the qualities of their ancestors. They were brown-skinned, tenacious, and silent. They did not speak, they acted. They were fiercely loyal to their leader, fearless in battle, and functioned as a single, unstoppable unit. To the Greeks, the ant was the ultimate model of the soldier, egoless, strong, and perfectly disciplined. In the sacred texts of the Middle East, there is a story of King Solomon, known for his wisdom and his ability to speak with animals. One day, Solomon was marching his immense army through a valley. He heard a tiny voice. It was the queen of the ants calling out to her colony, "O ants, enter your dwellings, that you not be crushed by Solomon and his soldiers while they perceive not." Solomon stopped his army. He smiled at the wisdom of the tiny creature who sought only to protect her family. He ordered his troops to diverge, stepping carefully around the anthill. It is a story of profound scale, the most powerful king on earth bowing to the rights of the smallest society, acknowledging that their work and their lives were as valid as his own. In the modern era, one man became the voice of the ants. His name was E.O. Wilson. As a child, a fishing accident left him blind in one eye. He could not see birds or stars well, but his remaining eye had microscopic near vision. He turned his gaze down. Wilson spent his life decoding the chemical language of ants. He discovered how they use pheromones to speak. He coined the term biodiversity. He taught the world that the little things run the world. He famously said that if humans were to vanish, the Earth would regenerate back to the rich state of 10,000 years ago. But if ants were to vanish, the ecosystem would collapse into chaos. He elevated the ant from a pest to a pillar of the planet, the essential gear upon which the biosphere turns. We are taught in school that earthworms are the champions of the soil, churning and aerating the earth. But in many ecosystems, especially in dry areas, the ant moves far more earth than the worm. When ants build a nest, they are engaged in a massive vertical mining operation. They bring the nutrient-poor subsoil up to the surface, and they carry nutrient-rich organic matter, leaves, food, waste, down into the deep tunnels. This is bioturbation. They are constantly flipping the soil, mixing the layers like a baker mixing dough. This allows water to penetrate deep into the ground during rains and lets oxygen reach the roots of plants. Without the ant, the soil would become hard, compacted, and suffocating. They are the lungs of the earth, keeping the ground breathable for everything else that grows. Plants cannot walk. To spread their seeds, they need help. Some use the wind, some use birds, but over 11,000 species of plants rely specifically on ants. This partnership is called myrmecockery. These plants have evolved a clever bribe. Attached to their seeds is a small, fleshy structure called an eleosome. It is rich in fats and proteins, and it smells exactly like a dead insect. To an ant, it is irresistible. The ant picks up the seed, carries it back to the nest, and eats the tasty eleosome. But the seed itself is too hard to eat. So the ant takes the seed to the colony's trash room, the underground compost heap rich in fertilizer. There, safe from birds and fire, planted in perfect soil, the seed germinates. The plant has effectively paid the ant to be its gardener. Imagine a forest without ants. Within weeks, the floor would be cluttered with the corpses of millions of insects, dead birds, and rotting fruit. The accumulation of biological waste would be staggering. Ants are the world's primary necrophages, eaters of the dead. They are an elite, rapid response team. When an animal dies, ants are often the first on the scene, dismantling the organic matter and returning its nutrients to the cycle of life before disease can spread. They process 90% of small animal corpses in the wild. They are the janitors of the biosphere, working silently and relentlessly to keep the house of nature clean and functioning. The most common sound in the ant world is the sound of motion. A single ant makes no noise you can hear, but when thousands move together, they create a soft, collective whisper that travels along the ground. Imagine placing your ear next to a line of ants crossing a dry leaf. You would hear a rhythmic, dry hiss, the sound of tiny claws ticking softly against the veins of the leaf. When they walk over loose soil, it is a continuous, fine scratching sound. It is not an alarm. It is the noise of labor, the background hum of civilization, a soft, steady rush that signifies that the empire is active, organized, and moving with purpose. Ants live their entire lives in fear of a massive, sudden flood. Therefore, when the first heavy drop of rain hits the earth, the colony's first response is a frantic, coordinated retreat. The foragers rush back to the nest. The entrance guards seal the main tunnels with pebbles, sticks, and dried mud, reinforcing the ceiling against the weight of the water. Inside the closed chambers, the air is thick, humid, and safe. The outside world rages with wind and rain, but deep in the dry chambers, there is a profound, echoing quiet. The entire community is huddled together, waiting for the violence to pass, protected by a simple earthen roof. The air we breathe is a cocktail of nitrogen and oxygen. The air inside the anthill is a cocktail of fear and reassurance. When a predator or a human footstep disturbs the ground, the soldiers release a volatile alarm pheromone. This pheromone is a fast-spreading chemical warning, smelling sharp, often like vinegar or formic acid. It instantly tells every sister, "Danger, mobilize." But this smell fades rapidly. Once the threat is gone, the ants release a different, calming pheromone, signaling that the danger has passed. The air is chemically washed, ensuring that the necessary panic vanishes quickly, allowing the colony to return to the calm business of building and gathering. For an ant, the ground is not a flat plain. It is a landscape of mountains, cliffs, and deep ravines. When a forager leaves the smooth, sterile walls of her nest, she encounters a world of texture. Sand is a vast field of sharp glass shards. Pebbles are immovable boulders. A single drop of dew is an insurmountable lake. The ant is constantly climbing, navigating, and adjusting her grip. She feels the temperature difference between the sunny side of a rock and the cool, damp shadow beneath. She lives in a world of high-definition tactile sensation, relying on the microscopic details of the soil to feel her way home. The existence of an ant is governed by gravity and the ground. But what happens when you remove those rules? Scientists have repeatedly sent ant colonies, specifically carpenter ants and harvester ants, to the International Space Station, ISS, to observe their behavior in zero gravity. The experiments revealed a startling adaptability. Normally, ants navigate entirely by touch and scent, but in zero-G, pheromones disperse randomly and the ground disappears. The ants quickly switched to using visual cues and touch. They began to build their tunnels using air bubbles, not soil. Most notably, they engaged in collective behavior to create artificial gravity. Thousands of workers would link together, forming massive spinning clusters. This collective movement generated a tiny centripetal force, creating a sense of down for the queen and the brood at the center. It proved that the superorganism's intelligence transcends its environment, enforcing order even when the fundamental laws of nature are suspended. If a scientifically advanced civilization from another galaxy were to visit Earth, their census of the planet would be vastly different from ours. They would not look at skyscrapers or political maps. They would measure mass. They would calculate the total weight of every single organism on the planet. In this calculation, humans are merely the architects of the surface. The ants, however, are the foundation. When you factor in the sheer volume, an estimated 20 quadrillion ants, their total weight is roughly equal to the total weight of all human beings combined. In many terrestrial ecosystems, the ants outweigh all the vertebrates, all the birds, mammals, and reptiles put together. This silent, six-legged life form is the dominant consumer of the Earth's resources. The visiting alien would conclude that the sentient creatures rule the surface, but the dominant creatures are the ants, the invisible empire covering the globe. We often look at the world through the lens of human history, marked by wars and empires. But the true history of the planet is marked by global catastrophes. And the secret to the ants' enduring success is its resilience to these cosmic events. The greatest example occurred 66 million years ago when an asteroid impact triggered the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction, wiping out the dinosaurs. The ant survived. How? Their lifestyle is their shield. They live underground, protected by layers of insulating soil that absorb the shock and shield them from the fire and heat of the impact. Their food, seeds, fungi, and other insects were stored safely in subterranean larders. While life on the surface burned, the ant simply waited, emerging to inherit a scorched, empty world and begin the slow, methodical process of rebuilding the ecosystem. They are the ultimate survivors, designed to endure the worst the universe can throw at the planet. In the floodplains and mangrove forests of Southeast Asia, water is not an obstacle, it is a reality. The Polyrhachis ant, or swimming ant, has adapted by using the physical properties of the water itself. When a flood occurs, these ants do not panic. They are covered in a dense, velvety layer of hairs. By trapping a bubble of air within these hairs, they make their bodies highly water repellent. They can use their legs to row across the surface tension, using their small size to their advantage. If they are submerged, they use their bodies to trap an air bubble like a tiny scuba tank. This ability to navigate both the ground and the water surface ensures that the colony's foraging range remains vast, even in the wettest environments. In the rainforest canopy, a fall from 50 feet is a death sentence. But for the Cephalotes atratus ant, falling is a controlled maneuver. These are the gliding ants. If a worker is knocked off a branch, she does not plummet randomly. She instantly uses her legs and abdomen as stabilizers, steering her body backward toward the trunk of the tree. Her flattened, heart-shaped head and wide legs act as miniature airfoils. This remarkable mid-air correction, a complex form of self-rescue, is designed not to get her to the ground, but to ensure she lands on the nearest tree trunk, allowing her to climb back to the safety of the canopy. They are the only known animal that can fall and yet choose where to land. We know ants teach, but the tandem run is a beautiful example of efficiency versus patience. The teacher ant has a superior knowledge of the route. The student ant needs the information. If the teacher runs too fast, the student loses contact and must spend time searching. This forces the teacher to wait. Researchers have found that the teacher's average speed is 4 times slower than she could run alone. The purpose of the lesson is not to move quickly, but to ensure the student learns the route well enough to teach it later. This is true altruism. The mentor sacrifices her individual time for the sake of the colony's long-term collective knowledge, building an informational network one slow step at a time. Ants are silent, yet many species possess a hidden sonic ability called stridulation. This is the production of sound by rubbing 2 body parts together. On certain ants, the abdomen and the petiole, the tiny waist, have minute, file-like ridges. When threatened or trapped, the ant rapidly rubs these 2 parts together. The high-pitched, vibrating sound is too quiet to travel through the air to human ears. However, it travels perfectly through the soil and tunnel walls. It acts as an urgent distress signal, alerting the colony that a sister needs help. The tunnel walls become the ultimate communication medium, carrying vibrations of warning and distress through the dark. The structural efficiency of the colony relies on its rigid, non-negotiable caste system. This is a system of extreme specialization, enforced not by law but by pheromones and nutrition during the larval stage. The minor workers are the smallest, doing routine tasks like nursing and grooming. The median workers are generalists, responsible for digging and foraging. The major workers are the largest caste, the soldiers. Their massive heads contain huge muscles to power their jaws, making them living tools for crushing seeds or defending the entrance. Each ant is a specialized cog in a vast machine, genetically and physically engineered for its specific task. The differences in caste extend to the brain itself. Studies on Pogonomyamex harvester ants have shown that major workers have relatively smaller memory centers, but larger motor centers for powerful jaw movements. Their intelligence is specialized for combat and crushing, not for navigation. The minor workers, however, have superior visual and olfactory processing centers. Their job demands that they remember landmarks, sun angles, and complex chemical trails. The superorganism fine-tunes the consciousness of each member. A soldier needs only to be strong and loyal, while a forager needs to be smart and precise. In many ant species, reproduction is sexual, but the little fire ant, Wasmannia auropunctata, has evolved a chilling exception: genetic cloning. In this species, the queen reproduces asexually. Her eggs hatch into daughters that are perfect genetic copies of herself. The males are also genetic clones produced through a different, equally bizarre process. This strategy eliminates genetic diversity, which is usually necessary for long-term survival, but it creates a perfect army. The colony is composed of genetically identical sisters, a highly efficient single-gene weapon system designed for rapid expansion and invasion. Ants are not confined to forests, they are masters of the concrete jungle. Urban ants have evolved genetic resistance to heat, pollution, and the toxic chemicals of city living. Species like the pavement ant thrive in the microscopic cracks between our sidewalks. Their ability to find water beneath the concrete, navigate the chaos of foot traffic, and tolerate the highly irregular food sources of a city shows their profound adaptability. They are the ultimate survivalists, thriving in the harsh environment we have created, a hidden layer of life beneath our asphalt empire. The most famous mutualistic relationship in the plant world is the contract between the Acacia cornigera tree and its resident ants. The tree provides food, specialized protein and fat packets, Beltian bodies, and nectar and hollow thorns for housing. The ant colony, in return, becomes the tree's immune system. They patrol the branches constantly. They attack and sting any animal that attempts to graze on the leaves, whether it be a massive giraffe or a tiny insect. They also systematically kill any vines or seedlings that threaten to compete with their host tree. maintaining a clear, sunlit buffer zone around the trunk. The tree has outsourced its defense to an army. This mutualism is also seen between certain butterfly caterpillars and ants. The lycaenid butterfly caterpillar produces a droplet of sweet honeydew fluid. For the ant, this is liquid gold. The ant guards the caterpillar fiercely, protecting it from wasps, flies, and spiders. It is a simple, effective transaction. The ant provides a security force, and the caterpillar provides a non-stop, high-quality, sugary reward. The caterpillar is a walking, breathing candy machine, paying its way through life by hiring the most effective security available on the forest floor. War in the ant world is not just about brute force, it is about deception. The Dendrobates ant uses a Trojan horse strategy when raiding weaker colonies. These raiders coat themselves in the corpse scent of the rival colony, or they secrete a specific pheromone that mimics panic or confusion in the defenders. They are essentially wearing a chemical invisibility cloak that smells like us or chaos. This allows them to enter the rival nest, steal the brood or resources, and escape before the host colony can organize a unified defense against the olfactory invasion. The army ant hunting column is a masterpiece of logistics. It moves across the jungle floor like a dark, liquid river, consuming everything in its path. But the movement is highly regulated. The fastest, largest soldiers run along the flanks, guiding the column and protecting the edges. The slower, smaller workers are in the center, carrying the larvae and the food. Pheromones guide the width and speed. If the column gets too thin, the flanking soldiers signal it to tighten up. If it encounters resistance, the soldiers surge forward instantly. It is a biological pipeline, constantly optimizing the flow of mass and energy across the terrain. The pheromone trail that guides an ant is not a permanent line. It is a calculated chemical message designed to decay. This volatility is key to the colony's efficiency. Alarm pheromones evaporate fast. They are designed to spread panic quickly and then vanish so the colony doesn't stay agitated. Trail pheromones are heavier and last longer, giving foragers time to follow. But if the food source at the end of the trail is exhausted, the returning ants stop reinforcing it. The chemical road sign simply fades away, preventing the colony from wasting energy on a dead end. Information that is no longer useful is automatically deleted from the system. Ants rely on a celestial map that is invisible to us. They can see the polarization patterns of light in the sky. Even on a cloudy day or when the sun is low, light is scattered by the atmosphere, creating a subtle grid that is fixed relative to the sun. The ants' tiny eyes can read this polarization grid. This allows them to maintain a constant, unerring direction. They can walk in a perfect straight line for hundreds of yards, even in featureless terrain, guided by an instinct that turns every sunny day into an open-source navigational tool. The remarkable accuracy of the ant's return journey was proven in famous experiments on the desert ant. Scientists captured foragers and altered the length of their legs. Ants with tiny stilts glued to their legs walked too far, overshooting their nest. Ants whose legs were trimmed fell short. This proved that the ant possesses an internal pedometer. Its brain constantly integrates two pieces of data: the angle of every turn and the number of steps taken. It calculates a perfect homing vector based on a specific, predetermined stride length. When the length of the stride changed, the internal map failed. They are tiny biomechanical calculators, navigating by pure math. The development of the complex stratified ant society, where one female reproduces and the others work, is one of the great milestones in the history of life. This eusociality is the reason they dominate the planet. It began with specialized castes, where daughters helped their mothers raise more sisters instead of leaving to raise their own young. Biologists believe that this level of cooperation was such an advantageous strategy that it paved the way for massive ecological success. The ant empire proves that in the long run, cooperation and self-sacrifice trump individual ambition. A common mistake is confusing ants and termites. They are not related. Termites are close cousins of the cockroach. Ants are highly evolved wasps. This ancient lineage difference led to an eternal war. Ants are the world's most effective termite predators. The survival of termites depends entirely on their ability to build thick mud cement walls to defend their colonies. The two live side by side in constant low-level warfare across the jungle floor. The two empires are defined by this eternal antagonism, a struggle that dates back millions of years and drives the architecture of the entire ecosystem. In the dense undergrowth, there are masters of disguise that exploit the aggressive reputation of the ant. Certain species of jumping spiders and beetles have evolved to look and walk exactly like ants. They are the mimics. These spiders have 2 extra legs they hold up to look like antennae. They walk in the quick, erratic motion of an ant. This deception serves 2 purposes. First, it allows the spider to hunt the ants themselves, infiltrating their lines of march. Second, because ants are aggressive and territorial, many predators leave them alone. By mimicking the ant, the spider gains a protective shield, walking freely in the open, disguised as a soldier. We return to the Aditamirma ant, or Dracula ant, to understand the extreme logic of their feeding. Adult ants cannot ingest solid food. They rely on their larvae to process meat. The adults, in turn, are milked. They use their mandibles to gently prick the larva's skin. They drink the nutrient-rich hemolymph, the ant's blood, that seeps out. This process does not kill the larva. It is a rapid, non-destructive blood donation. This system allows the adults to efficiently gain high-quality protein without wasting energy on personal foraging, establishing a sophisticated biological tax system where the workers and the queen feed directly from the youngest members. The leafcutter ant's fungus garden is their single point of failure. Mold and foreign fungi could wipe out the crop. The worker ants maintain a state of total hygiene, involving specialized sanitation workers. They do not just apply antibiotics, they patrol the garden constantly, snipping out any trace of contamination. They also have a specialized caste of tiny ants that ride the leaves being carried by the larger foragers. These small ants' job is to groom the leaf segment, removing any spores that might be hitchhiking on the leaf's surface before it enters the sterile garden. Waste management is essential for survival. Ants designate specific underground chambers, often far away from the brood and the queen, as middens or communal dumps. They organize their waste meticulously. Food scraps go in one place, dead bodies go in another. This behavior ensures that colonies can survive for decades in the same subterranean location without being poisoned by their own waste. It is a decentralized yet highly organized system of garbage collection that prevents disease from spreading through the tight quarters. The life of the colony depends on a tight temperature schedule. Larvae need a precise warmth to develop. Ants actively regulate the brood chambers by moving the babies to different depths of the nest. On a hot day, workers carry the larvae deep into the cool, stable basement. On a cold morning, they bring them up to the shallower chambers to catch the sun's warmth filtering through the soil. This constant shuffling allows the colony to control the speed of development, ensuring the birth schedule of the new workers matches the needs of the foraging season. Just as critical as temperature is humidity, the delicate larvae need high, stable moisture or they will dry out and die. During periods of drought, the colony works as a collective humidifier. Workers will search for moisture, drinking water and carrying it back to the nest. They then deposit this water into the soil of the brood chamber, or they coat the tunnel walls with saliva, raising the air's humidity. If the nest is too damp, they move the larvae closer to the entrance where the air is drier. They are constantly fine-tuning the atmospheric conditions of their city, ensuring the health of the most fragile citizens. The stability of the colony hinges on the queen's scent. She constantly releases a complex chemical cocktail. This pheromone is passed from ant to ant through trophallaxis, mouth-to-mouth sharing. The scent suppresses the reproductive system of the workers. As long as the colony can smell the queen, they know she is alive and they remain sterile, focusing on labor rather than reproduction. If the colony grows too large, the scent might not reach the periphery. Those distant workers, sensing the absence of the queen, will begin to lay their own eggs. The pheromone is the invisible leash of loyalty. The queen's day is a quiet, rhythmic manufacturing process. She is the fertility engine of the entire superorganism. She can lay hundreds, sometimes thousands of eggs a day. She moves slowly, visiting the specialized egg-laying chambers. She examines each cell, checking its size and cleanliness. She decides whether to fertilize the egg to create a female worker or a future queen, or leave it unfertilized to create a male. This rhythmic process is the foundation of the empire, a slow, continuous expansion of the city's population. The larval stage is a period of total helplessness. The larvae are soft, legless, blind grubs. They cannot feed themselves. They are entirely dependent on the nurse workers. They are kept in vast, carefully organized piles within the brood chambers. The nurse workers constantly sort them by size, age, and need. The larvae signal their hunger not by crying, but by secreting specific hormones. The nursing ants are attentive to these chemical calls, delivering regurgitated food constantly to ensure maximum growth. The final metamorphosis happens in the pupa stage. The larva, having eaten its fill, spins a cocoon of silk around itself. Inside this dark, protected shell, the body undergoes a complete, silent transformation. The larval body dissolves and rebuilds into the complex, segmented form of the adult ant. This process is so profound that the old body structure completely vanishes. It is the ultimate quiet miracle of reconstruction, a final, necessary sleep before the creature emerges with a hard exoskeleton and the instinct to work. When a young worker finally emerges, she is a callow. She is soft, pale, and clumsy. Her exoskeleton is not fully hardened, and she is easily crushed. Her first weeks are spent in the safest place in the nest, the central chambers near the queen. She begins her apprenticeship slowly, performing tasks that require no physical strength: grooming, cleaning, and caring for the eggs. Her body slowly hardens, her exoskeleton darkens, and her internal clock begins the countdown until she is ready to graduate to the dangerous labor of foraging outside. The life of the ant is a continuous cycle of birth, labor, and death. The individual dies, but the colony never does. The worker's short life feeds the strength of the queen. The queen's long life produces the strength of the worker. The resources feed the fungus feeds the ant. The cycle is relentless, efficient, and unbreakable. It is a biological perpetuum mobile, a self-sustaining engine of life running on instinct and chemistry. It is a comforting rhythm, a constant, flowing river of life where nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed. We return to the beginning. We return to the ground beneath our feet. The ant empire has endured for 140 million years. It has witnessed the rise and fall of giants, the collision of continents, and the slow, inevitable expansion of time. They are the ultimate example of collective survival, a civilization built not on ambition, but on cooperation. As you rest tonight, remember that beneath you, this complex, silent, massive world is still moving. The queen is still laying, the builders are still digging, the foragers are still marching. The work never stops. And in that relentless, quiet order, there is a profound peace. Sleep now. The work is being done. Good night.